So you'll get my real-time reaction and feedback. Should be fun and entertaining. Per our tradition, let us start by showing love to those who show love to us. May I first acknowledge, oh yeah, shout out to Fungi, who's a member at marquetism.com. I see you just made a comment on one of the classics, which is called Dump Her or Will She Change? Lecture notes included. So this was a video about if you should get rid of the chick or if there's a possibility that you can hold on to her and she might actually improve her behavior. And this one even has lecture notes. And he made some comments about how great that game is. If you want to become a member, today's actually the perfect day, marquetism.com or patreon.com/the saint and the sinner, because you pay for the whole month and you're starting at the beginning. You also get access to our free, our member only Discord and much else. We have some text printed on the video, which reads, the BBC has been begging Andrew Tate for an interview for the last 6 months. Begging. Whoever writes this stuff is truly comedic. I wouldn't be surprised if Tate dictated this himself, because it has that hyperbolic air that he speaks with. They sent a list of sanitized questions. Yeah, that makes sense too, because his diction is not the best. You wouldn't really say questions are sanitized. And promised a fair and balanced interview. Well, we know they got to get something spicy. Quote, Tate finally agreed to their begging and they ignored all of their promised questions. I think maybe skipped their promised questions, didn't use their promised questions, and attempted a hit job. Oh, absolutely. And I trust that he's intelligent enough to know that this was going to happen regardless. This is actually their job, which is to, sensationalize things so that they can get more views and clicks, because just like your popular YouTubers, BBC is in the same business, which is to get views, to make money from adverts. So invariably, they're always going to do the thing that's going to get them the best outcome, which is obviously a financial outcome. And at the bottom, it says, this is what happened. So let's take a look. Now, mind you, I'm seeing this with you for the first time. So we are both seeing this together, and you'll get raw, real reaction. Damn. First off, why they send this raggedy hoe to interview Tate? Like, I would feel disrespected if you sent this raggedy hoe to interview me. You heard me? Send something young, good looking, trim in shape, and stylish. You heard me? I want somebody looking like they work at Vogue or that they're walking the catwalk. I don't want this homeless looking chick that looks like she's a mid-level manager at Urban Outfitters. Hell nah. I don't want this chick that looked like she just got fired from Starbucks. Hell nah. Look at this raggedy old beat up plain face. Oh my, I am done. And she just showed up in all black. And the funny thing too, maybe they really think Tate is guilty. They're like, he's a sexual predator. Make sure you cover up. Shorty just showed up in a crew neck t-shirt in black from head to toe, not showing an inch of skin. They're like, send the ugly one. He won't touch her. Send the ugly one. She'll be safe. That BBC is making sure they good, huh? Woo-wee. Shout out to George, always supporting the work, and shout out to the real ones who really rock with the movement. You dig? Oh goodness. Somebody put no baddies in the UK. Hell nah. UK is one of the most ugly countries out there. There's China, UK, and another third one that I'm not gonna name because she might be watching. You heard me? But yeah, UK, China, nah, they ain't bad.
Andrew Tate, you've agreed to do an interview.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn up this volume for you gentlemen. Tate looks like he's in good spirits to start with. That's quite nice. His suit game ain't on the level of the big homies, but not everybody's in the suit game.
With the BBC today.
Yep.
The material is going to be published on television, on radio, online.
Perfect.
We
look at her saying foolish things that we all know the reality of. The interview is going to be published online, on TV, and in print. Yeah, I know. Okay, so yeah, let's get to the interesting part. Quit wasting time. You were not hired for your looks, so you got to have some brains. Either that, or you were like, I don't know, like the daughter of somebody, huh?
We are doing an interview with you because you're facing some very serious allegations.
Correct.
Rape, human trafficking.
Yep.
And also,
Human trafficking does sound particularly evil and devious. I must say, human trafficking. It makes it sound like you getting everybody. You heard me? You getting kids, you getting senior citizens. I mean, really, what they should just say is like, some hoes are lying on you, bruh, and you might get fried for it. That's what they should say. By the way, shout out to Paul. He was the first one to support with the super chat. Writes peace of saints. Truly appreciate it, and thank you for respecting my time. Definitely means a lot. I'm a busy man, and for all of those who need anything from me and who are members and sent an email, I got time today. You heard me? I got time today, so I will be hollering back at y'all.
because there's a great deal of concern about the things you say and the impact that they have on young people, on women.
I don't think the concern is about the things I say. I think the concern is for the level of influence I have and the reach I have. I would argue that a lot of the things that are already out there inside of the legacy media and the matrix as a whole are far more.
One, Tate is saying some things that he said before and will say again, no doubt. And she said things that the machine or the matrix have said before, and they will say again, no doubt. One thing I do want to point out in terms of public speaking is Tate seems to like hold on to this position here, which is fine. I think it's an all right way if you're standing or something like that, and you want to do something with your hands. But when you're actually communicating, there's a harmony that can occur between the hands and the speech. And that's what really gives impact to your speaking. So while he's speaking and he's kind of robotically like this, it's not going to have very much power or passion to it. I mean, just imagine, Adolf, giving one of them passionate speeches in German, Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer. And he's just holding his hands like this, like, it's not really going to hit right. When he's like, Ein Reich, ein Volk. So, just for those of you who want to, learn how to be impactful. That's the A1 side of it. This is just, I suppose, what he's comfortable with.
More damaging than the things I say.
Concern about the influence you have being a harmful influence, but let's start with the allegations.
Not necessarily a harmful influence. The fact that I'm massively influential over the youth, and I understand that. But it's my influence as a whole which people are afraid of, not necessarily the things I say.
Let's start with the allegations. Have you raped a
This chick hates his guts. You ever talk to somebody that you could just tell hates your guts off rip? Y'all ever just sit there like you looking at somebody's eyes? Maybe you showed up to a job interview. You feel me? Maybe you showed up to a date and just like the vibe was not there. This is pretty much what's going on right here. Shorty hates this man's guts. She won't yield an inch of ground. There's no attempt to establish rapport between interviewer and interviewee. It's just pure combativeness, just straight away. And I also wouldn't be surprised if this chick is dating a chick. You heard me? She doesn't really seem to have a soul or anything that you'd want to see. Like there's no sweetness, no softness, no femininity that you would observe in a woman. I mean, she looked like she came from she's a Little House on the Prairie reject. She looks like an Addams Family extra. She looks like she used to be a Mormon. I'm not getting into it. Carrying on.
Anybody?
Absolutely not.
Have you trafficked anybody?
Wait.
Exploited any women?
Let me rewind that. Oh, and by the way, remember where you heard it first. I did announce that Andrew Tate will not be going back to jail at all. He won't spend another day in jail or prison in Romania, and he will eventually be, I won't say absolved of all charges. That is not the case. He'll lose a little bit of financial capital, but he'll basically carry on as before. And as far as things are proceeding now, it's just all legal formalities and saving face on the part of the Romanian government. But he's pretty much off scot-free. You dig? And I'm the first person to break this news. I also said this on Twitter a couple of days ago, in case you were wondering. So you're welcome. Shout out to Austin. Comes in by Cash App. He writes tuition. Thanks, pimp. Truly appreciate it, but let us not use the P word, you dig? For they start using terms like human trafficking. But some of us are more low key. Some people like to pimp on prime time, and other people are low key. If you dig what I'm saying.
Absolutely not.
But let's start with the allegations. Have you raped anybody?
Absolutely not.
Wow. Shorty said, have you raped anybody? Like who just looks you in your eyes and asks you that? I remember one time I was dealing with this white girl and she had asked me, she was like, have you ever shot anybody? Because she had heard a story about me getting stabbed, which is a true story. And she says, have you ever shot anybody? And I was looking at her like, Shorty, if you don't knock it off, like, who asked that? That's not even a question to ask somebody. Because if the answer is yes, what are you going to be like? Yeah, for sure. Last week, let me tell you about it. Obviously, the person's going to say no. So it's almost a waste of time to ask such a question. But in this case, it's actually a slap in the face. Carrying on.
Have you trafficked anybody?
Absolutely not.
Exploited any women for
Absolutely
money?
not.
But you have admitted using.
So here's the weird thing about she asked him like 3 questions that if he said yes, he'd basically be guilty of a crime. She says, have you committed crime A? Have you committed crime B? Have you committed crime C? And he's like, no, no, no. Then she says, and I don't even know what she's about to say. She says, but you have. And then she's about to, basically level yet another accusation, which shows us that she's in an accusatory position. She's not operating as a journalist. It is upon the journalist to be objective, which is to say to gather information. She's not engaged in a debate. This is supposed to be an interview. He's the subject. He should be doing most of the talking. But right now, as it stands, I say she's probably at about 55% of the word count, and he's about 45% of the word count. Not quite right.
Emotional manipulation to get women to work in the webcam industry for you?
No. Firstly, let's begin. Let's start at the beginning. I'm facing charges. The first one you mentioned, the rape one's already been thrown out by a judge because there's no evidence of it.
Now, that's a good point that he brings up, and I hope he elaborates and reminds her that, hey, you're from the BBC, British broadcast company, I believe it is. And British would mean that, you come from the UK. It is in the UK courts that Andrew Tate was accused of rape. And it is in the UK courts that charge was thrown out. So unless you don't respect your own legal system, why would you even accuse me of something that I've been found to be innocent of? That's like him accusing her right there on the spot, saying, hey, are you a thief? Are you a robber? Are you a murderer? With absolutely no evidence. And in fact, it's not even as bad as that, because in his case, he was proven innocent. Generally, in Western societies, you presume innocence, but he was actually proven innocent of the charge of rape. So,
secondly, it's very difficult for me to sit here and have a very frank and honest conversation with you while we're in the territory of Romania about a legal case that's going on within Romania. I have to protect myself. I've agreed to do an interview with you, and I want to be as honest with you.
So he's saying that he has to protect himself legally. As I've already announced, that he's pretty much absolved of all charges. Everything's been worked out. There'll be a bit of financial hit, very minor. He'll be able to continue on just fine, cars and all, and he won't spend another day in Romanian jail. So a lot of this stuff is just show, and it's to keep the media circus going. And there are certain things that he can't say, but he already has certainty that he's good to go. Which is partly why the interview is occurring, right? And remember, gentlemen, ladies, that I announced days ago that he was good to go. And then now you see he's doing a BBC interview. Notice, I'm always years ahead. Vaughn writes, met a chick on Tinder who invited me to her place tonight. Okay, unfortunately, I looked up her address, and she lives in one of the worst ghettos in my city. Uh-oh. Should I go through with it? Generally, is it better to have them come to you? Well, if you're like me and maybe you have a couple, suites or penthouses or condos, yeah, that would be ideal. Have her come to the condo because you got the security downstairs, so she can't just show up when she wants to. And it's not your primary residence anyways. It's just a place that you stop in every now and then. That's number one. Now, if that's not the case and you're liquid, you might consider a hotel. But, I've been in a situation like yourself. I was a young man, or I just needed in my life. You heard me. And I'll pull up to a chick's place. I used to have a beautiful Latina in East LA, and East LA really doesn't like Black people. You heard me, for the most part. And I used to have to go deal with her in East LA. And you heard me, just like I say in my track. I used to say, I'm packing the Mac in the back of the act. In fact, I keep the strap in the front of my lap, and I do that when I'm going through the wrong hood up to no good. Left Pasadena with my Nina on my way to LA to fuck my Latina. Calls me Grim Reaper because I kill that pussy when I see her. Which is to say, yeah, I show up with the strap. You heard me? 2 straps, the burner and the Magnum. You did. Be safe out there, brethren. Jerome writes, "Hey Saint, I'm hoping all is well and prosperous. Indeed. Thank you for the game. Truly a pleasure. And thank you for the support. Thank all of you. I sincerely appreciate all of our members, especially the loyal ones who support time and time again. Oh, yeah, and by the way, it's 6:30 in my local time zone. By 7, we want to see someone new we've not seen before.
It's possible, but I can't incriminate myself in any way, and I have to be very careful of what I talk about.
There are no charges yet.
Correct. There are no charges.
This man, Andrew Tate, is the greatest of showmen, I promise you. So first off, we already know that he's scot-free. He's good to go. He wouldn't even be doing the interview if he wasn't good to go. Anyone who's ever had a legal issue and actually hired private counsel, and I think public defenders will, give you the same advice. Fortunately, I've not ever had to use one, but you're not going to be doing interviews when you have an ongoing criminal case. Look at this low IQ person. He writes stealing bars. No, the beginning when you say packing the Mac in the back of the act, that's called an homage. You hear me? That's called an homage to Big Pun. Everyone who listens to hip hop knows packing the Mac in the back of the act, packing the Mac in the back of the act. That's called an homage, my dear boy. Learn something. Carrying on.
I said that
There are no
more
charges,
evidence
and I've agreed to speak to you, but I have to be as honest and frank as I can while also protecting myself and following my legal counsel.
So let's talk about what you.
Bro, your legal counsel wouldn't let you take this interview if you was facing any charges currently. Those charges are about to be done for. You heard me? But he's a good showman. And one thing that he's not saying well, and I'd be very thoughtful if I were him and how he states this. He says, "I can't say anything that would incriminate myself." Well, the truth is that by stating it in that way, it sounds as though you could say something that would incriminate you. And if you would say something that would incriminate you, that would suggest that what you said was true and it speaks to crimes that did occur. Rather, it would perhaps be better to state it in that I don't want to talk about an ongoing legal case, right? You don't even have to make it sound like you're going to incriminate yourself on accident, because that's not the case. There's no way to incriminate yourself for you're not guilty of anything. And those are just the subtleties that actually do matter, because if someone were to clip this, maybe one of the liberal media or BBC, and they took that clip and Andrew Tate says he can't speak freely because he might incriminate himself. He doesn't want the truth to slip out. These are the kind of things that they're likely to do. Shout out to Heels In, comes in supporting the work via Venmo, as well as Adrian comes in via Cash App, writes "Peace to the Saints." Good to see you, Saint. Carrying on.
You've said yourself then. You have said on the website, for your original website for the Hustlers University, that you emotionally manipulated women to fall in love with you so that you could get.
Shout out to hers. They didn't came in well researched. Now, you know that you're dealing with a biased interview when they haven't they haven't thrown one softball. You hear me? They haven't thrown one underhand pitch to him, let's suggest that we're objective. They're coming at him with an extremely aggressive front, which they're really signaling to their core audience, like, hey, we hate this guy's guts. We're using him for ad rev, but we hate his guts and we want to help to destroy him. And what I hope he comes to realize, and I don't think it will be the case. I mean, hubris is a terrible, terrible thing, but you have already been basically accused of rape, which is a heinous crime. If you end up in too many more hit jobs, your reputation is going to be damaged beyond repair, to the point where you're not going to be gaining a new following, which his following is enormous, but you won't be gaining a new following. And what's more is that your existing haters will be further emboldened, and they're going to find a way to get you, because we're in a world wherein the legal system is crooked. So they can find a way to get you. And if they can't get you for criminal liability, they'll get you for civil responsibility and sue the pants off of you consistently until you can't fight anymore. Or they'll get you with the tax code, and the tax code is endless. They can always find something that you violated, especially if you're doing international business. I know this for a fact because there are just so many regulations that are involved in international transactions. I mean, even, if I buy a pair of designer sneakers, they cost me $2,000 and I paid VAT, I can get the money refunded at at the border or at the airport. But funny thing is, if I don't have the box that the shoes came in, they won't refund it. There's just so many weird small things in international commerce that makes it easy for the government to exercise, evil designs against you. Shout out to Carlo. I think this is a baller alert, but it looks red, like this red, like the other red. But I'm gonna just give him love. Baller alert. He writes, peace to the saints. Shout out to it must be a baller alert. He says, peace to the saints. Shout out to the ballers. Any possibility of shipping the black backpack briefcase to Mexico City? Yeah, it should be. It should be shippable international. I have them all in my warehouse, and they ship them out straight from Las Vegas. And the beautiful thing is that you can order those anytime, no matter when I'm traveling, because I have a whole team that ships those things out. So if for some reason you're not able to initiate that purchase on mdblabel.com, let me know and I can get that worked out for you. May I acknowledge the dude 343 supporting the work. Truly appreciate that. He then came right back with it. He writes, read the super chat. Hey, Saint, I've been dating a girl and her ex died 2 years ago and she still has that trauma in her. Should I stay or leave? Well, the question is, how strong is the trauma? Hopefully it wouldn't be that strong 2 years later, and surely it wouldn't be something that's affecting her on a regular basis. If it is, I would probably consider, marginalizing her, moving her into the side piece category. And the reason is, one of the most important abilities all human beings must have is the ability to get over things, the ability to, move forward, make progress, and most importantly, be happy. You don't want to be with a woman who's stealing happiness from you, because when you're in a positive state, you don't know what's around the corner. Around the corner, you could get into a car accident. Someone could flatten your tires. You could have circumstantial things happening. So you need to be around people in general, and women in particular, who value and understand the precious nature of happiness and peace. So I would probably start marginalizing her to that side piece category. Beasto writes, appreciate the wisdom as usual, Saint. Have incorporated the SAS and burpees into my workout regime indefinitely. 4 sets of 10 gives a solid burn. Oh, indeed it does. And right now I think I'm looking at having it at 3 sets of 13. So we're looking at 3 sets of 13 right now. I'll finalize it soon. Billionaire writes, there are things that must be explained more in depth so that phrases like incriminating myself, that rings bells in haters' heads, can be immediately halted. Indeed, they will find anything and ignore the rest precisely. And one thing you never want to do for your enemies, you never want to supply your enemies with fodder. You never want to give them ammunition against you. They're going to manufacture their own. They're going to create their own versions of the truth. Surely you don't want them to be able to play a clip of you saying something bad about yourself. Carrying on.
Get them working in the sex industry for your financial gain.
As I said, I have to be very careful with what I say, but let's put it this way. No women are coming out against me and accusing me of doing it.
Yes, they are.
No, they don't.
Yes, they are.
Yo, this went elementary school real quick. He was like, no women are coming against me. She's like, yes, they are. He's like, no, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Like, kind of shit. Well, look, I hope he challenges her, and I think that he probably will. It seems like the obvious logical next step, which is to say, okay, what are their names? Right? They're adults. What are their names? Everybody knows my name. What are their names? Who are they? If they were wrong, let them speak up. They won't. And then she's going to lie and say, oh, they want to be anonymous because they don't want to be threatened by your fans. Okay, either that or they don't exist.
No, they're not. Who?
There's testimony from the current investigation.
The current investigation, which I cannot discuss, which I know intimately and you don't. I can tell you right now that the women who are in this case file, there are 2 American women who have been caught already admitting they're lying. And then nobody else is accusing me of anything.
To begin with,
it is curious that it's 2 American women. And the funny thing, and some of you might not necessarily be aware of how certain things operate. If he was indeed running a webcam business, particularly out of the country of Romania, Bucharest sucks. Of all the cities I've been to, I don't like Bucharest very much. I don't like Vienna very much. And in fact, Budapest is just as well. Those 3 European cities are kind of like, eh. But I say that to say the general income in Romania is lower than America. So it will be much easier to recruit webcam talent locally in Romania, in the Baltic states. The women are very attractive, generally more so than American women, and they're lower income, so there's greater need. So there's a higher likelihood that he could put them into this business, and undoubtedly they're more interested than an American woman would be in, securing a sugar daddy or associating with a wealthy man, especially someone who has as much fame and wealth as Andrew Tate appears to have. So with that being the case, if it's an American female, and in this case two, it's very unlikely that they could be coerced as much as a Romanian woman could be coerced, or any woman from one of the Baltic states or one of the less developed European nations in Albania, or Belarus, or places like this. So this is strange. The American white woman is, in fact, the most free woman in the world. And the idea that these women could have been taken from America as sex slaves and then forcibly, made to work the webcam business is quite ludicrous. And just the fact that we would even put someone on trial for this is also quite ludicrous. May I acknowledge Major Minus Soul? He writes, sorry I'm late. What do you think his reasoning is for taking this interview? It doesn't seem necessary. Peace of the Saints. I think his idea is that all publicity is good publicity, and this has been a mantra that we've heard for many decades. But the truth is, there's an asymptote that one reaches, or there's a plateau that you reach when you've been exposed to everyone, which is to say that your initial effort in the world of marketing is to get people to become aware of who you are and what you have to offer or sell. And then they can make their decision as to if they want to buy. And you'll have three parties. You'll have the party that they hear what you are talking about. They're the early adopter. They have attitudinal affinity. They're going to buy whatever you're selling. They're going to swallow it wholesale because it's just what they've been waiting on. You deliver a message of masculinity and wealth, and that's just what they've been waiting to hear. So they're going to buy straight away. Then you have the people in the middle. They need to hear your marketing message 17 times before they decide to say, oh yeah, I want to sign up for whatever you're doing. I believe in you now. Then you have the people who are staunchly against you, and they're the opposite of your early adopter. Whatever you say, they hate. These are the feminists. These are the LGBTQ. These are the leftists. They're not going to ever agree with your message. So when you become the most Googled man in the world, your message has been disseminated. Everyone's heard of you. And now your mission is not to engage in more dissemination. Your mission now is to strengthen your organization such that you can defeat the other side, because everyone's heard your arguments. They have a good sense of who you are and what you stand for. Right now, it seems that he's still in PR mode. And I think that he really needs to get out of PR mode and get into organization mode. But let us understand that we've observed this many times in both corporate life and as well as in political life, which is to say that the people who found companies, the inventors, they're not good at managing companies or running corporations, right? Now, on the political side, the people who start revolutions like a Robert Mugabe, Muammar Gaddafi, they might not be good at running governments. They're good at overthrowing the government and leading the revolution, but they're not good at running their own government. So maybe Andrew Tate is great at making the come up and getting in position, but maybe he's not great at holding the position. And what I mean is, once you become the top dog, now everyone else's goal is to take you down. There's some people who they're not trying to take you down because they hate you. They're trying to take you down because they want to be you or be in your position. Then you have people who are trying to take you down because they legitimately hate you. They legitimately hate everything you stand for. And those people, there's really only one solution to people like that, okay? Because they're never going to change their mind. And one thing that Tate would have learned if he was a member at patreon.com/the or marquetism.com, I did a breakdown of a classic by Niccolo Machiavelli entitled The Prince, and I applied it to modern times. One of the lessons in that classic is never be hated. And this is something that Trump violated. He became hated. And this is something that Tate has surely violated. He's become hated. He's become hated in mass. You mentioned his name, and for many females in the West, it conjures up, visceral reactions, anger and hatred. And people who are filled with hatred, they're going to be motivated. That's why you saw Donald Trump lose a midterm election. We know that there may have been some irregularities in the election, but what we do know is that the opposition was highly organized and determined, and they elected Sleepy Joe. No one voted for Sleepy Joe. Everyone voted against Donald Trump as motivated by hatred. So there you go. So in short, to answer your question, why is he taking the interview? I think it's probably just hubris. It's probably just good old hubris. And, sometimes the thing that gets you to the top might be the thing that takes you out of the top. I'm certainly wishing him much success. Baller alert. Now, we notice a baller alert. I know this currency right here, them good old greenbacks. You heard me? And of course, shout out to Carlo coming through with the Mexican pesos. We respect it all. Drip Lord Entertainment writes, peace of the saints, paying what I owe. I just came into some fantastic money and I'm feeling prosperous. Hallelujah. I wanted to say, as always, good work, Saint. I truly appreciate that. And may everyone, commend him and congratulate him on his success. We like to see people winning. I'm really happy to hear that. And may you be a good steward of your capital. I want to see you keep it and grow it. You dig? May I acknowledge via PayPal. Cesar writes, favorite hotels in Vegas. What, bruh, look, that I know well. My favorite hotel, could you put favorite hotels? So that's more than one. My favorite, and I'll tell you a second place winner. My favorite hotel in Las Vegas by far is Crockford's, which is the ultra luxury hotel inside of Resorts World. This is by far the best hotel in all of Las Vegas. I have a place there that has 3 bedrooms, a personal gym. That's right, you have your own gym in your room. It has in your penthouse. It has 2 living rooms, has a bar. It has Bluetooth audio integrated throughout the entire place, including the bathrooms. Has electronic bidets with ultraviolet light that shoots like light up your butt crack if you like. It's just tremendous levels of opulence. It has 3 maid services that come through per day with a turn down service. They change the flowers every single day, real flowers. It's just extraordinary. You call downstairs, anything you ask, they will deliver. That is the number 1 place. Number 2, I like the Aria corner suites are quite nice. They're very modern, good technology, beautiful view. And so I'd say those are the top 2. Wishing you a fine trip. And if you touch down in Saint City, do tap in with the Saints in the member-only Discord. May I also acknowledge via Cash App, Britain comes in. It's been a little while. It's good to see you, Saint. He writes, thank you for your work. Truly appreciate that. Carrying on.
It's very common in cases like this that the alleged victims do not always see themselves as victims.
Well, that's very interesting.
Oh, gosh.
If I was...
See, this is dirty, and this is how evil these leftists are. This woman says the victims don't see themselves as victims. So you're telling me that you have the power to tell someone else they're a victim if they don't feel like a victim? Wow, that's amazing. What's more is their underlying suggestion that these persons are too stupid, too immature, too goofy and unaware to know that they've been wronged. But you're the all-knowing. This is really destructive to civilization and our legal system, because what she is suggesting is that she can pretty much persuade and convince someone who feels perfectly fine with what they've done or experienced and turn them into a victim. She's trying to create crimes, right? That's like me doing a business deal with someone, and we do the deal and that person feels good after the deal. I feel good after the deal. Then this devil comes along and says, oh, hey, you did a deal with him. Like, was it 50-50? They're like, no, it was 60-40. He owned 60% of the business. I own 40% of the business. And she's like, oh, that's not fair. And he's like, yeah, well, it was his concept. He did all the work. He put up most of the capital. He organized the team. I kind of just showed up last minute. She's like, yeah, I don't think that's fair though. And then she puts him up to put up some fraudulent civil case or lawsuit. This is the kind of thinking that we're being confronted with, whereas the victim doesn't know they're a victim, but have no fear, I'm going to advocate for them anyways. Like, come on. What people misunderstand is that the government is not supposed to be in every part of our lives, kind of dealing in our small trifles and minor arguments with one another, but rather the government is supposed to provide for public works and bridges and roads and a standing army, a currency, and also deal with the things that we cannot resolve individually or within our families to prevent violence. But the government doesn't need to be in every minor conversation we have. And this is what she's doing. Sometimes you screw up and you do dumb things. Sometimes you do bad deals. You don't have to go to court for everything. And you don't have to send people to jail for everything. Now, there are some rascals that need to go to jail. If you have been sexually inappropriate with a child, you need to go to jail or probably to the grave, frankly. But short of that, we don't need to be so legalistic.
A matrix controlled organization. My goal was to slander somebody and try and destroy their name. You're telling me that they've chosen a crime, which one is heinous, of course, because it damages the person's credibility. And two, you're saying that even if everyone else involved, if you have 5 people and everyone's sitting.
Okay, so he's using this term matrix, and this one thing I want to remind everyone of is the matrix concept is based on a fictional film, and the red pill concept go hand in hand. And the entirety of the internet has been leveraging this concept, which my understanding was originated by Rollo. And they've been utilizing this concept because it's had currency, it's been popular. And now it's starting to kind of fall apart all at once. Now, I remember there was one person named Marquette Devon Burton who said this stuff is garbage a long time ago. Now everyone else is just realizing it. But somehow people are doing away with the red pill concept, but somehow they're keeping the matrix concept, which I find to be comical because you really can't have one without the other now, can you? Because if you're not in the matrix, what are you? You're in the red pill situation, right? It's the red pill that takes you out of the matrix. So if the matrix is bad, invariably you need the red pill. So I point all of that out to say there is no one in the online space that actually has a coherent ideology except the saint and the sinner, Marquette Devon Burton, who has put forward a philosophy that is coherent and clear and actionable called Marquettism. Everyone else is just babbling and it doesn't make sense. It just frankly does not. Shout out to Austin. He writes that IG Live had crazy game, bruh. Didn't it? Didn't it? Yeah, shout out to the ones who follow on IG. Follow me at Marquette Devon. I'm gonna drop some more game on there every now and then, you dig? But I'll probably just lock it up for the members afterward. Shout out to Carter supporting the work. He writes, tuition likes are free. Don't they act like they don't know it, right? They act like they don't know.
And they're saying, no, nobody's hurt anybody. We like Andrew. We've all worked together. We're friends, etc.
That's not what everybody's saying.
No.
Let me read you some of the testimony from the current investigation.
May I ask you guys a question? If you're interviewing someone, theoretically, that's because you want to hear what they have to say, right? You're interviewing them because you want to hear what they have to say. For example, the last month and a half, I've been interviewing a lot of people because I'm always hiring people within my corporations. And I'm always keen to hear what they have to say because I'm interviewing them. One thing you are not inclined to do when you're interviewing someone, unless you're DJ Vlad, is cut them off, right? You kind of want to hear what they have to say, unless you're so narcissistic or convinced that you're right, that you got to overtalk the person, which is uncivilized. And so we basically have her asking him a question. He gives the answer. And then she says, no, that's not right. We have something to counter that. Well, if that's the case, love, rather than pretend to interview me, why don't you put forward your argument in full and then I can respond to your polemic? I can respond to it. But what you're trying to do is set me up.
Can I finish?
One of the witnesses said,
Can I finish, please?
You're not answering the
Can I
question
finish,
I've asked
please?
you. You're not answering the question
I
I've
am
asked
answering the question. You're
Let
saying,
me read you the
you're
testimony of
saying,
one of the witnesses.
you're saying the people who are involved in this, even if they say they're not victims, that they're still going to try and attack me and pretend they're victims.
Treated as victims by the case.
And that is the problem, you little old hag, you little dead face looking broad. That's the problem that we're all pointing out, is that you have women who are saying, I am not a victim, which how is it that we want to empower women? We want to be feminists and say that women, like men, are adults, they're responsible, they're accountable, yet you won't take their word when they say, as a responsible adult who is accountable, I'm letting you all know I wasn't a victim. Yet the case file is still listing them as victims. That is the concerning part.
On ongoing. And not all of them are saying that. One of the witnesses says,
We can't go into the case. The case is open and active.
well, let's just be clear that not all of the witnesses in the case are behaving in the way you describe. And even those that are, it doesn't bar them from being treated as victims.
This woman is trying so hard to paint a narrative. Like, good Lord. It's almost not even an interesting interview at this point, because when you create so much antagonism with the subject is going to be defensive and not give you any good information or any novel information. And she really had an opportunity to ask some interesting questions we've not heard before, we perhaps haven't pondered ourselves, and get some intimate insights about his experience locked up, and his hope for freedom, or his fear, or why didn't you flee, what did you think your chances would have been if you fled. Those could have been some really interesting questions, but instead she's badgering him about all the things we've already heard, and that makes it uninteresting. May I acknowledge John, who's became a member at marquettism.com, as well as Paul, who's a member at marquettism.com. Maybe we welcome them warmly to the family.
By the prosecution, by the case.
We have an open criminal investigation. I am absolutely not really sure I'll be found innocent. I know the case better than you. I know it intimately and you don't. I have seen all the criminal files and the evidence against me and you haven't. I know the truth of what happened and you don't. And I'm telling you absolutely not.
Let's see if she validates any of the facts that he's just provided. And these are facts, and we can all acknowledge that. Certainly he's the one on trial. He knows the case file better than most, maybe barring his Romanian attorney. So I trust he's had time to reflect on these things. And as he stated, she is not privy to the information he has access to. So let's see if she acknowledges this at all, which would mean that at some level we're seeing some dialogue, and there's a give and take, and there's understanding, and there's listening, active listening. Let's see if she acknowledges any of what he said.
I've never hurt anybody. That the case that's been put against me is completely and utterly fabricated, and I'm never going to be found guilty of anything. And it's very difficult for me to answer your in-depth questions because we're sitting here inside of the territory of Romania. I'm beholden to the Romanian legal system.
Okay, so he keeps saying that repeatedly, and frankly, to me, that doesn't make him seem more innocent. It makes him seem more guilty. So I think he's doing himself a disservice by continuously reminding the viewing public, I'm sitting here in Romania, I'm on house arrest, and I might say something that might incriminate me, and there's an ongoing criminal investigation. That doesn't sound like you're confident of your innocence. It doesn't sound like you have nothing to hide. It sounds like you have much to hide and you're trying to hide it. I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm saying that's the way things sound. And the way things sound is really important when people are taking sound bites. Shout out to Saeed, who also is a member at marquettism.com. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to hit that like button, to share and support the work. And it is 7, and we haven't seen anyone new. And as you guys know, I don't run ad units. So I'm not doing this for the money. I don't run any ad units on this channel. I'm doing it for the respect and to spread civilization and reform global culture. So in as much as that's the case, we'll see if we get somebody new supporting the work, because all men must stand up. And if not, probably need to make some greater focus on the members. Maybe I'll just end the stream and then we'll just do it for the members only. I'll give you guys some time to ponder that. Okay, Saints. So what I'm doing right now is I just created a webinar link. So I'm going to post this on the member sites right now for all the members. So if you're a member, you'll see this link go up, and we'll start this within the next 5 minutes. And we'll just basically just pick up from where we were. We'll finish this off. Oh yeah, shout out to Mackenzie. He went on manandwomanbrand.com, just copped a clean yellow short sleeve. Beautiful thing. There's a hat that I'm looking to get. I think it's on sassinbrand.com. It says Miss Andre. I'm gonna cop that one soon. The only thing is, I've been traveling to my places in Europe, so these things will go to my address in the United States. I'm looking forward to coming home to a lot of drip. You dig? And gentlemen, one thing I always want you to remember and maintain is that 3-sentence Bible. Number 1, be yourself. Number 2, be good to yourself. Number 3, be good to good people, which is to say, show love to those who show love to you. If people show you love, honor them. If people don't show you love, treat them like strangers. You heard me? Treat them like they treat you, which is like a stranger or worse. You dig? And so one thing I always want to do is I want to show love to my members because they're the ones that really rock with me, year to year. And so I'm very thankful for you guys. So I'm going to continue this shortly on the link for members. Shout out to Mr. Crowley writes, peace to Saints. Marco, what are your thoughts on Elizabeth Holmes getting less prison time than the Balwani fellow who helped her in the scheme? I'm not surprised at all. The white female is a protected class in our society. And the true comedy of things is that she's been able to escape every possible form of accountability. She's gotten every advantage, even though she's not a numerical minority, she still gets minority benefits, which is strange. So that, in other words, means that you can be a girl who grew up very wealthy in privilege, white privilege, but you can claim that you don't have white privilege. You can say only the white man has white privilege, not me. I'm a woman. And then you can also have grown up with parents who are well educated. They give you every advantage. And basically, if you're trying to figure out who I'm talking about, think of Just Pearly Things. Think of Just Pearly Things. You could be Just Pearly Things, grow up in a mansion, your parents are well educated, and you're very wealthy. And every time you do something, you're going to be patted on the back. And every time you want to do something, you're going to be given the advantage. And every time you do something bad, you're not really going to be chastised, because just like we're seeing in this Andrew Tate case, hey, you didn't know you were a victim. or hey, that wasn't really your fault. So to be a white female in this society is tremendous privilege. Shout out to Busek. Shout out to P. Crawley. And so this link just went up on marquettism.com. I got the link right here, and it has just been published there. Now we're going to thesasn.com. The link is now live there. And I'm going to patreon.com. And the link is now live there. If you guys will give me just 2 minutes to hop onto that new stream, we will resume from there. May I also acknowledge via PayPal, Gensley writes, tuition for the legendary IG live. I appreciate that. Tuition for the Top G breakdown. Yes, sir. Yeah, that IG live was going up on that one. That was game from the heart and from experience. You dig? Anyways, Saints, for the members, it's all love. We gonna get into this. So do go ahead and check the member websites right now, and just go ahead and click that link, and we'll be right back, basically in the exact same format, and we'll continue on. I'll see you all shortly.